Hey everyone, I want to talk all about why OCD will feel as real as it can get and all the mimicking that OCD does that keeps us stuck in the cycle of analyzing that automatic rumination process, especially when it comes to health OCD, contamination OCD, even something along the lines of harm and POCD. Does this mean something about me? What does it say about my values? Am I really am the thing I'm very afraid of? And why, if it didn't feel as real as it can get, OCD just wouldn't be that disorder that we know it as, because it wouldn't even be a disorder, because you would say, well, this is fake, and you would just move on. So it has to feel as real as it can get, and understanding that in a practical way is so important for your overall recovery. Before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button, comment down below. And if you're interested in our coaching and webinar services, please email us at phil@ocdrecovery.com. Again, that is phil@ocdrecovery.com, and we will get back to you in a timely fashion. So I want to open up, sorry, of course, I have an itch in my eye right when I start. I want to start talking about my body dysmorphia journey and why it didn't matter how much I tried to prove my way out through exercise or nutritional manipulation in these strong ways. It's not that you can't change things, but the way I was doing it was very compulsive. The changes were always coming off when I felt a certain way. And why it didn't matter how much in shape I was in, it didn't matter how big I was or how much muscle I had, I was still completely convinced that if I was fat and I was overweight and didn't have muscle, that my life would be ruined. So it would mimic that sensation all the time. When I would be doing soft tissue on someone in my healthcare practice or trigger point release, I would be very convinced by like just pressing down on them that I was losing muscle in my lats and that my shoulders were shrinking. This is something that a lot of people may think is odd. I promise you this affects almost everyone in the fitness industry, because the entire worth of a fitness athlete is put on their self-worth, is put on their physique. And they look at it in a completely conditional manner. If I don't have muscle, if I'm overweight, I'm a loser. People will judge me. They'll think differently of me. I won't be able to accept myself. So let me go over some of the common mistakes I made in my body dysmorphia. Constantly trying to change my workout program, constantly trying to manipulate my nutrition, compulsively exercising anytime I went on vacations. Nothing wrong with exercising on vacation per se, but the way I was doing it was coming from that, like, I must exercise on vacation. I must keep my physique, etc., etc. I cannot eat too many desserts. I cannot do this. I have to make sure I'm staying within this really strict nutritional boundary. And then it didn't matter what people would say to me. You know, people would come up to me at the gym and they'd say, wow, you're looking so good. Like you're looking really lean, or you're looking, really muscular right now. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I would say, yeah, I don't think I look like that. And it didn't matter, because none of those external factors could fix the fact that I didn't accept myself unconditionally while I strive for goals of to have more muscle and stuff like that. But it comes to a means to its end, right? I like the challenge of exercise. I like pushing myself in the gym, and the secondary benefits are looking better, right? Whether it's having less body fat or having more lean muscle tissue, but those are just benefits, and they're not necessary in life by any means. Exercising and having muscle is a very new age thing. People were very muscular probably in the Olympics dating back 1,000 years ago, but they weren't geared towards I must be muscular like it's been since the beginning days of like Steve Reeves, some of the original Mr. Olympias in the 50s and the 40s, and then when pumping iron came along in that era, and then the era after that with like the 80s with Lee Haney and stuff. If you're in the bodybuilding, you know what I'm talking about. But this is all a new age phenomenon, 100 years, max. In the grand scheme of human existence, it's not the end of the world. And again, having muscle and being strong has lots of health benefits, but it doesn't mean anything about you and your personhood. I got stuck a lot in that. So it mimicked that. It felt as real as it can get at all times. I always felt fat. I always felt like my clothes didn't fit me. I always felt like my stomach was hanging over the side of my shirt. Something as simple as like, I'm just, for the video, like if you come up and like look at something like this, kind of like how you could grab that right there, that would have just totally made me lose my mind. Like I would have legitimately freaked out by just feeling that. Because I'm in these more tighter shorts, so obviously in tighter clothes, your stomach hangs over a little bit. That set me into a spiral. Like just feeling that was really, really uncomfortable for me. And I realized that it didn't need to define me in the way I thought it had to, because I was so afraid of feeling a certain way, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a big one. My sensory motor, the journey specifically with hyper-awareness, so you can apply all this to whether you have breathing, blinking, swallowing, saliva, your heartbeat, or any other hyper-awareness. It's going to feel like you're 24/7 locked in the sensation until you become more comfortable with the sensation itself. So that was another big mistake I made, right? I must not notice my sensation. I must not be aware of them. If I'm aware of my sensations, my life is ruined. Oh my gosh, it's so terrible. So it would mimic that as feeling as real as it can get. If you look at something, HOCD is a great example, gay OCD. Not harm OCD, but gay OCD. A lot of people that I work with will say, hey, look, I don't have any anxiety. I just get really aroused when I look at people of the same sex. That's one simple example. It feels as real as it can get. It's going to feel like that until you become more comfortable with the worst case scenario of not having the life you want, of potentially being gay. And maybe you're married to a female, you're a guy married to a female, and you think, what if I am gay and I have to divorce, and then all the shame and guilt that comes along with that, and breaking that down. Harm OCD and POCD, 100% going to make it feel as real as it can get. It's just part of the process and how it goes as you break the fears down. But I want to spend a little bit of time talking about health OCD, because I think this is a really important thing. So I was with a friend of mine. They're in their 70s, a couple I see on a weekly basis. And I was talking to them 2 days ago about how the world's becoming one gigantic hypochondriac bubble because of all the stuff on social media about the perfect diet, the perfect nutrition, the perfect sleep, and all that stuff. The problem is these people that are looking for these control mechanisms are not even really living, they're just dying. And I know that sounds brutal, but there's some serious truth in that, because I have lived that life. And again, I now see it from a totally different angle. I still have things that I do to stay healthy, balancing calories, not tracking them anymore, and keeping exercise 5 days a week, and sprinting and hiking mountains and stuff like that. But overall, I've lost that dire need to feel good all the time. And this is the same thing with sleep. So if you look at sleep, for an example, if you're afraid of being tired, if you're afraid of being burned out, it's going to mimic being tired. It's going to mimic being burned out. It's going to make it feel, no matter what, if you slept 10 hours refreshed, and then what happens is you'll sleep 4 hours and say, how am I so much more awake than when I slept 10 hours? And it keeps you in the analyzing cycle of going back and forth and stuff like that. So because there's so much information on social media right now that's really just garbage information, there's a lot of nonsense about adrenal fatigue and hormone levels, and we're not saying that stuff isn't important. We're just saying it's not as important as you think it is, because this stuff has been problematic forever, but the people today are much more focused on it. And the other thing is, people think they're going to live forever, but you're not going to live forever. And even if you did live forever, there's a really good movie called Time. I like it, with Justin Timberlake. I think it came out in 2012. And it's about people that live in these zones, and in commodity is time. And you have a bracelet on, or it's inside of you, and if your clock runs out, you have a heart attack and you die. But the rich live forever. And when he's meeting Philippe, the main bad guy's daughter, who becomes like the getaway person, the Bonnie and Clyde situation, she says, the rich can live forever, but they never really live, or something like that, because they have nothing. If you live forever, if you know you're going to live for 500 years, you miss out on one of the most amazing things about life, and that's the shortness of life, and that's going for things. I know I went a little bit off tangent there, but it does roll in to this realness of health, because you're so afraid you're going to die, right? So breaking down the fear of death, you're so afraid you're going to miss out in life. And looking at this in a very Stoic philosophy, and realizing that you only have one life, you're not going to be here forever, and everything else in between. So it's going to mimic all those things, cancer, aneurysms, going blind, heart attacks. And wearing all that stuff as you go throughout your day is the important part. As you change your perspectives on that stuff and realize you don't need to live forever. Okay, I've already lived longer than many people. I can live with all these different pain, headaches. I don't like any of that stuff, but I can live with them as I go throughout my life, because I'm not promised anything. But the more you want those things gone, the more it has the upper hand on you. So I think it's really important to think about that. So just remember practically that OCD is going to feel as real as it can get. It's going to convince you in a matter of moments, or for an extended period of time, backdoor spikes, relapses, constantly locked, that you're not going to make any progress, that you are going to be stuck forever. And that's part of the process. And I always say, if it didn't feel as real as it can get, as Rob says, it wouldn't be a disorder, you wouldn't be here, and you would just go throughout your life. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what you think about it. If you have any recommendations, I have a list right now of content I'm going to make. And then we'll go from there. And remember, Phil at OCDrecovery.com, and we'll get back to you in a timely fashion. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.